Okay. There we go, dudes. We got this. Yeah, we got this pretty good. Yes. Now, hello, motherfucker. Okay. At least we got it. Uh, get, okay. Now, we should be able to. Oh, make a sucker up and all that good shit. All right. Let's see. Yeah, it'll work, I guess. All righty, bros. It's been Christmas Eve now. We'll leave the Christmas map up. Uh, well, we'll leave that up going anyway. Now, I guess we're gonna play some ranked. I don't think we got no more about our play ranked though, have we? The web balance, yeah. We play one game of ranked. Guess we can. Guess we can. I tell you what.
Battle starts.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Good luck, everyone.
Awaiting instructions.
I'm gonna rank these last two captains I got up. If we don't, we're not going to make it.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Oh, so we need to reset this one. Get it, bro.
The ship is on fire. Torpedoes, direct front. Torpedoes to port. Problem solved, sir. ship is on fire!
The enemy team has taken the lead.
I'd say so. But not get in another one that fast. No way we'll get in another one that fast, dudes. Still loud, bro. It is to me. These things. Furry. Okay, let's see. Furry count today. Okay. Three containers with golf supers, but we got 3 of them anyway. We'll see what we got. We still got one more container to get on. Okay. All right. Let's just be honest. The cash. Cash is what's going to make our world go round right now. Credits. So, let's see. I don't think we could if we want a new one to start. That's not their Christmas Day. We don't get we might have another new bro. Hey, we have. Received. Okay, dudes. We'll play some browse somewhere. Did we get our captain? Junk bound under, yeah. The junk master. My balls is going up in the sack, man. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hopefully we can. Maybe I doubt it.
Autopilot mode enabled.
General quarters.
These are about straight up. You'll fight for them or you'll die. You try to run on this shit, you're just frigged.
reconnaissance.
Okay. Hopefully we got. Come on, bro, man, you can do better than that shit, dudes. Dude in the DD is going out. You can't do the same, huh? Don't worry, bro.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon. Enemy battleship sighted.
The ship is on fire. Main turret critically damaged.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
Problem solved, sir.
They're not going to fight for it, bro. These guys will, so we're going to lose. Simple as that. Totally honestly, simple as that. But when you don't fight for it, we'll lose. Period. Period. So you take a few bad moves from teammates. Like that there, bro, and then there you go.
Enemy battleship detected.
Alrighty then. Coming out there now, ain't it? He ain't going.
Cruiser detected.
Much obliged, Commander.
That's right over there.
The enemy is about to win.
They're going to win. They've captured, we haven't. So what's that tell you, bro?
Enemy destroyer sighted.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
Get back!
Fuck you, bro. How about that? Yeah.
Torpedoes, direct front.
Worried about it. Fucking torpedoes. Out.
Main turret critically damaged.
More ramming.
Torpedoes, dead ahead. The ship is on fire. We're holed below the waterline. We're flooding quickly.
Again, what? Guess you realize. Boy,
Problem solved,
there,
sir.
guys, Go hit him.
Ship is on fire! Torpedoes to port.
Why are they shooting? Hey, man. I guess might as well just go ahead and do the set of him. I thought we did. That's the frame. Well, but I don't know why the hell we didn't kill him. No, why? Man, I don't see why we didn't kill him, man. I'll right straight out there at the gate on his ass. Not to lie about it. We should have took him out, no problem, man. Okay. What's this about Biden? Something about Biden and skip that. Okay.
The final 4 weeks of his presidency. The countdown comes
4
amid a
weeks.
new bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal highlighting the 46th president's rapid decline in recent years, interviewing nearly 50 people around the president. Now, administration officials detailing how he would grow, quote, tired if the meetings went long and would make mistakes. At events, aides would repeat instructions that should be obvious, for example, how to enter or exit a stage. The report reading, quote, presidents have always had gatekeepers, but in Biden's case, the walls around him were higher, the controls greater. According to Democratic lawmakers, donors, and aides who worked for Biden and other administrations, there were limits over who Biden spoke with, limits on what they said to him, and limits around the sources of information he consumed. His administration has denied Biden has declined. To get an inside look, we are welcoming in Lindy Lee. She's a DNC Finance Committee member who has ties to the Bidens. Lindy, thank you for making the time tonight.
Natasha, thank you for having me.
And I know you take this seriously. You personally know President Biden. What is your reaction to this report?
It's just further confirmation for what we've known for years, and I tried to sound the alarm in July. I was attacked then. So there's definitely an echo chamber on this matter and a closing of ranks. People don't want to hear the truth, and it's extremely devastating. It's devastating in so many regards because President Biden as a human being is no longer capable of executing the duties of the commander-in-chief. And also, we kind of have a shadow presidency of his inner circle of people. Well, I don't want to get crucified again, but there are certain people around him, his senior advisors, who are essentially running the country.
Tell me more about this. What did you observe that prompted you to come forward earlier in the year? I know there is a part of this piece that talks about the president not being able to answer free-ranging questions, and I want to bring this up. It says at some events the Biden campaign printed pre-approved questions on note cards and then gave donors the cards to read the questions. Even with all these steps, Biden made flubs, which confounded the donors who knew that Biden had the questions ahead of time. So I know you hosted the president back in May in D.C. Is that when you noticed some issues?
No, I knew before. Actually, you mentioned no cards. That's actually a good scenario. Under most circumstances, he didn't take any questions at all. I remember I did a fundraiser for him here in Philadelphia in February of 2023, and the system that you just outlined was the one in effect, where they had pre-approved questions, and only those people who were loyal members of the firm, so to speak, were allowed to ask questions. That was case number one. But on May 1st at the Mayflower in DC, I remember the family member that I brought to the event was actually angry at me because President Biden did not work the rope line and he did not take any questions. And we had raised, I think it was $1.1 million for the event, and he didn't answer any questions, and we weren't allowed to ask. And so it was very surprising, and that family member had actually flown across the country for this, so he kind of felt that.
When did you first notice? When did you first notice that he was declining?
The ship is on fire.
I think I also was just hoping for the best, and I still, to this day, I love him as a human being, and I'm very sorry. This is the truth. I knew something was accelerating, I think, in 2023. I think actually, to be honest, I think he was pretty much fine in 2020. I'm trying to be as fair as possible, and I didn't see any signs of cognitive decline in 2020, and I was on the campaign trail with him. I also raised money for him in 2019. I was in San Francisco with him the day after Kamala Harris attacked him on the debate stage. He was definitely sharp then, at least from my point of view. It became clear that something was different in 2023 and then 2024.
And you came forward, you said, in July. What did you say?
On Fox News Sunday.
What did you say?
Yeah, I went on air to say that.
And how was it received? You said you were
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. But by who? Where was the backlash? Where was it coming from?
The liberal leftists who are attacking me now. The same people, the same group of people. I've lost tens of thousands of followers this week. I've been called a number of names I won't repeat here, simply for stating the truth and asking questions about how the finances of the Harris campaign were handled. It's the same bunch of people who attacked me in July. I went on Fox News Sunday on July 21st. I remember that day because a few hours later, President Biden stepped aside. Honestly, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but the day before my Fox News Sunday interview, somebody from the White House called me. And I don't know if people know this, but before Fox News Sunday and Meet the Press interviews, they're all, the day before, they're all listed in Politico. So the White House found out that I was speaking to Shannon Bream, and they called me the night before and said, "You're one of the president's most loyal supporters. We know you're going to stay loyal." And as someone who's watched The Sopranos and is a huge Godfather fan, I mean, it just sounds like something. It just sounded like mob speak almost. Like, it's a nice position you have there. It'd be a shame if you lost it, kind of.
Did you perceive it as a threat when they said that?
It was the most, it was the friendliest threat possible. But if you know anything about me, I never cower to anything. I just don't. I'm not on anyone's payroll. I don't care. This is the truth. So I said what I had to say, and then a few hours later, he was gone.
In your opinion, was Biden fit to lead in these last couple of years of his presidency?
I do want to say that the president is more than just the president. He's the people around him, and the people around him are highly competent and able to execute duties. So, his team is definitely sharp. I mean, whether or not you agree with them ideologically, I don't think he's at the prime of his life. I'm trying to be as euphemistic as possible.
I believe you used the word shadow presidency before. Is that what you believe it has been in the last couple of years?
If we were to define that term as an inner circle who's really close the ranks, who protects them at every juncture, and I know them, and I'm sorry, but it's true. And I owe the American people the truth. I've been trying to tell the truth, and you can see what happens when I tell the truth. That's why I wasn't more forceful before, and I apologize. But you see the way that I've been tarred and feathered, because people would rather destroy the critics than accept the truth.
Very last question, Lindy. Why come
I
forward?
think
Why sound the alarm about this?
Way before now.
I was giving people the benefit of the doubt for a long time, and then they wasted $2.5 billion. I raised millions of that. My family members gave millions of that.
He said all the pardons should
It's
be,
just, I felt like I was lied to at worst and manipulated at best. They told us that they were going to win 3 to 4 swing states. We all saw what happened. That wasn't even close. And so that was a moment when I was like, wow, after all that I've done, they still lied to me. They still didn't tell me the truth. And I lied to the people who I loved. So I'm done with this. I haven't left the party yet because of concerns like the environment and gun violence, to be honest, but I am definitely assessing where I go from here.
Okay, Lindy Lee, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.
Girl, you'll probably have to go independent or Republican. I mean, I would think. Oh. Now this is honestly what I thought would happen over this, and it's going to happen. About shopping.
Let's see how it works.
Shopping.
Hey Garrett, this is Steve with Rapid Radio.
For the ones that don't know
Convicted.
about him, he was the one that they convicted over George Floyd's death. And one thing about everything, it eventually has to go to appellate court. Once it goes to appellate court, whether they want to introduce it then or not, they'll take it. So, and to see if the trial was run right. So, I'm kind of anxious to see what this guy says, because this has been a topic that I've wanted to hang with, because I honestly believe
Derek Chauvin.
if you were going to hold Chauvin in account, you needed to hold the rest of them in account. And the rest of them, I mean, as being just Chauvin, being the girl that filmed it. She stood there and watched it go on. All the bystanders that stood and watched it go on should have been treated in the same way that Chauvin was, that they were considered. I mean, let's just be honest, dude. The dude OD'd. Watch it. We'll listen. We'll give a few words here or what we think.
Derek Chauvin was wrongly convicted of killing George Floyd in a verdict that was a result of racially energized hysteria.
I believe that.
Those who bothered to look at the actual evidence have always known this because it was obvious. As has always been the case, the only person who killed George Floyd was George Floyd. And just days ago, a federal court provided a fresh opportunity for this simple truth to be demonstrated yet again. Let's talk about it. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense, and for those of you who stay to the end, I'll share with you how you can get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, your handbook to being hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. The big lie in the death of George Floyd is that Floyd was killed by career police officer Derek Chauvin wrongfully kneeling on Floyd's neck and back with sufficient force to stop Floyd from breathing. This has always been ridiculous nonsense. There was literally zero evidence ever offered by the state that quantified how much pressure Chauvin was supposedly applying to Floyd with his murder knee. Certainly not all of Chauvin's body weight, because Chauvin's weight was also being supported by his other leg. Further, the evidence that Chauvin's
much.
murder
I
knee
agree
was
that
on
it was
Floyd's
too
neck and
much.
back was both ambiguous at best.
I
Chauvin
believe
and
at
every
best
police
they
officer in the
coulda got
department
him
had been
for
taught the knee on the
involuntary,
back restraint technique
and then he
at the
contributed
academy,
into his
and
death
over
would
his
have
20-year
went
career,
over better.
Chauvin had likely performed this restraint hundreds, if not thousands of times without causing any injury to a suspect.
Yeah, but
Of course,
his suspect
most
was
criminal suspects
fucked up
hadn't
on
presented with the
fentanyl.
constellation of comorbidities and poor life choices made by Floyd that primed him for a death that would be unforeseeable to any of the officers making a lawful arrest of this lifelong violent criminal.
He
Perhaps
was.
most
I mean,
decisive
you
of
should go
all,
back and
however,
look at
is
his
that there
criminal
existed
record.
many other means by which Floyd's death could have been caused that involved zero malice or misconduct by Chauvin. And even one credible alternative means of death, by definition, raises a reasonable doubt that it was Chauvin's malice or misconduct that caused Floyd's death, and therefore precludes a rational jury from finding guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, I would suggest that this is actually the single best working definition of what reasonable doubt really means in the context of a criminal conviction. That is, in order for guilt to have been proven beyond any reasonable doubt, there must be no other reasonable explanation consistent with the evidence other than guilt. To put it in another way, if there exists even one alternative explanation consistent with the evidence, then by definition, guilt has not been proven beyond any reasonable doubt. Indeed, I would go even further and take the question out of the hands of the jury. As a matter of simple due process, every defendant is entitled to an impartial, unbiased, and rational jury. Nobody should be subject to an irrational jury. For example, a jury verdict of guilt where the prosecution failed to show any evidence on a required element of a crime would clearly be irrational and should properly be reversed by the trial judge. No need for an appeal. This is well-established law, and it results in what's called a directed verdict, or a JNOV, a judgment notwithstanding the verdict, in which the verdict is taken out of the hands of the irrational jury.
It really was.
Similarly, a verdict of guilt returned where there is an obvious alternative explanation consistent with the evidence other than guilt is a similar violation of due process of law and ought to be reversed by the trial judge. No need for an appeal. In the context of Derek Chauvin and George Floyd, this means that if there exists even one explanation consistent with the evidence for Floyd's death other than Chauvin's purported murder knee, the state has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Derek Chauvin was the culpable cause of Floyd's death. Even without the newly proposed mechanism of Floyd's death being recognized by the federal court recently, the medical examiner's report findings in the immediate aftermath of Floyd's death was full of evidence for causes of death other than any malice or misconduct by Chauvin. First, Floyd was engaged by police because he had just been reported by a local convenience store as attempting to pass counterfeit currency. Coincidentally enough, standing on the sidewalk where all this went down was a local drug dealer who was frequented by Floyd. When Floyd was approached by police while in his vehicle, he shoved a handful of tablets into his mouth. Fragments of these tablets would later be found in his mouth and inside his vehicle and identified as methamphetamine. The only reasonable inference is that the convicted felon Floyd and lifelong drug user decided to quickly ingest the meth he just purchased from his drug dealer moments before, rather than have the contraband drugs found in his possession upon his arrest for the counterfeit money.
Now listen to this. It's true, too, man. This is what's funny about it, kind of. It's not funny because it's bad. And I don't find anyone dying funny, even if it's a drug overdose or whatever. But what's funny about it is that I think everyone should have been fired for one simple reason. That they couldn't recognize that someone that was OD'd. I mean, other than that, you know. And they couldn't, man. I was sad shit about that. I mean, I don't think they really honestly had recognized Chauvin or any of them that they recognized Floyd at 08, man. But to me, man, so I seen the video, I said, damn, that guy knows the dose, bro. They need to help him, bro. I mean, really, think about it, bro.
Ship is on fire!
Sure there's this guy, he's wanking up on God only knows what there, man. They don't even try to help him, man. That was, now they were guilty of,
Problem solved, sir.
Guilty of that, they didn't try to
The ship
help
is on
him.
fire.
They didn't. And the gun, man, I mean, but I don't think it could have saved him. I think he done too much. And his death was just one of those things that was going to happen regardless. Honestly, I believe Floyd had died just he had made his own casualty. He did not have to have help killing himself. He fucking killed himself. And he did, and that's just the honesty of it. But Floyd killed himself. He did.
Enemy cruiser destroyed.
And that's just one of the end of the day takeaways of that hill. Getting around it about it. He took too much dope and he died over it. Fact, man. Shitty stuff. And he did, and that's just all there are to it. I never seen how the hell they ever come to the conclusion they did and called it what they did, because I mean, all honesty of it,
Autopilot mode enabled.
at the end of the day, I've seen it at
Second, Floyd then violently fought lawful arrest against 4 officers for some 10 minutes. The officers were fully entitled to make Floyd's arrest on the counterfeit money suspicion, and their use of force in making that lawful arrest was also lawful. Unknowable to the officers, however, Floyd was not someone who possessed a physiology that would respond well to violently resisting lawful arrest. First, Floyd had substantial cardiovascular disease, including a badly enlarged heart and clinical hypertension. He also suffered from sickle cell anemia, which obviously impaired the normal function of the red blood cells that carry oxygen throughout his body. He also had existing metabolic disease in the form of a paranglioma tumor in his pelvis. We'll circle back to that tumor in a moment because it's the subject of the recent federal court order we're going to discuss. Third, along with this severely compromised physiology, unknown and unknowable to the officers making a lawful arrest of a violently resisting Floyd, along with the mouthful of meth tablets the officers could not at the time have known that Floyd had just swallowed, Floyd was also found at autopsy to have fentanyl levels sufficient to kill a human being 3 times over. Fourth, on top of all that, Floyd tested positive for COVID, which we've all been assured by our government is a respiratory virus capable of inflicting horrific death upon millions of otherwise healthy people, much less someone with Floyd's compromised physiology. Indeed, we'd all been assured that someone who was COVID positive, who died from falling off a ladder, was properly considered to be a COVID fatality. I said earlier that what killed George Floyd was George Floyd. And by that I mean that it was Floyd's severely compromised physiology, unknown to the officers making Floyd's lawful arrest, his just ingested mouthful of meth tablets, unknown to the officers making Floyd's lawful arrest, his threefold lethal levels of fentanyl in his system, unknown to the officers making Floyd's lawful arrest, his COVID infection, unknown to the officers making Floyd's lawful arrest, and Floyd's own poor life choice to violently fight lawful arrest for 10 minutes. That was the proximate and culpable cause of Floyd's death. While some or all of the factors may have been synergized by the police officer's use of force upon Floyd, that use of force doesn't qualify as criminal conduct unless it was done with malice or constituted misconduct. And there was zero evidence offered at trial that any use of force by the officers qualified as either malice or misconduct, except, of course, that the court allowed for the lie that it would be reasonable to ignore all the obvious proximate causes of Floyd's death, to pretend that none of that existed, and to instead pretend to believe that what was proximately responsible for Floyd's death, being an unlawful killing, was a knee-on-back restraint technique taught at the Minneapolis Police Academy for decades. Incidentally, when the medical examiner looked for evidence consistent with Chauvin having applied pressure with his knee sufficient to have caused Floyd's death, he was unable to cite even a scintilla of such evidence, noting in his report that there were no facial indications of restrained breathing. There was no injuries to the muscles of Floyd's neck or back. There was no chest wall soft tissues injuries, not even bruising. Incidentally, the PDF of this medical examiner's report is included in the description to today's show. That lie that it had to have been Chauvin's murder knee that killed Floyd was the basis for Chauvin's state-level convictions for unintentional second-degree murder, really a form of manslaughter, third-degree murder, really just another form of manslaughter, and second-degree manslaughter. Note that not one of these convictions was premised on Chauvin having any intent to kill Floyd at all. Chauvin was sentenced to 22 years in state prison for these state-level convictions. And Chauvin was then also charged at the federal level for Floyd's death, given the claim that he killed Floyd while acting under color of law as a police officer. And Chauvin pleaded guilty to the federal charges. I suspect he took that federal plea as part of a deal in which he would receive a concurrent federal sentence no longer than his state sentence, and that he would be allowed to serve both sentences concurrently in a federal rather than state prison, where he may have believed he had an expectation of being safer than if he were in a Minneapolis state prison. In fact, as an aside, in November 2023, Chauvin would be stabbed some 20 times by another inmate who claimed he was acting in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. In any case, that brings us back around to the recent federal court decision in Chauvin's federal conviction. Chauvin is appealing his federal conviction on the grounds of ineffective assistance of counsel. As it happens, Chauvin had the same defense attorney, Eric Nelson, for both the state trial and the federal plea. Chauvin's now being represented by different counsel. Chauvin's current claim is that his trial attorney and federal plea attorney Eric Nelson provided ineffective assistance of counsel by failing to bring to Chauvin's attention information from a medical doctor that proposed yet another mechanism of Floyd's death independent of any malice or misconduct by Chauvin. This physician, Dr. William Schetzel, had informed Nelson that it was quite possible that what killed Floyd was the consequence of the already compromised physiology I've already discussed, with the final straw being a catecholamine cascade caused by the paraganglioma tumor found by the medical examiner to be present in Floyd's pelvis. It's the theory of Dr. Schetzel that the combination of Floyd's violent resistance to lawful arrest and his otherwise compromised physiology that it triggered this paraganglioma tumor to release an abrupt cascade of catecholamines, which have the effect of inducing an acute heart failure, pulmonary edema, an impaired ability to breathe, and subsequently death. Obviously, neither the presence of George Floyd's tumor nor its medical consequences could possibly have been known to the officers making their lawful arrest of Floyd. Every criminal defendant has a U.S. constitutional right to effective assistance of counsel. So a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel is a frequent basis for appeal of a conviction. Normally, of course, a guilty plea is difficult to appeal. Often a condition of taking a plea deal is that you're waiving all rights to appeal. In this particular case, however, Chauvin is arguing that he would never have agreed to the plea had he known about this tumor-mediated catecholamine cascade theory of Floyd's death, and that therefore Nelson's failure to bring this theory to his attention prior to taking the plea constitutes ineffective assistance of counsel, and his federal conviction ought therefore to be reversed. The federal court that heard these arguments has given them sufficient credibility that it's ordered that Chauvin's legal team be provided with samples of Floyd's heart tissue and relevant bodily fluids collected during Floyd's autopsy. The PDF of this federal court order is also included in the description of today's show. Of course, even if successful at the federal level, this appeal would have no immediate direct effect upon his state conviction. How it might apply at the state level is something not within my own area of expertise, really, though I can imagine a variety of avenues of attack, perhaps on habeas corpus grounds. In any case, of course, the real travesty in this case is that due process of law mandates that a defendant cannot be convicted of a crime unless his guilt has been proven beyond any reasonable doubt. A reasonable alternative hypothesis for Floyd's death, by definition, raises a reasonable doubt over whether it was Chauvin's purported malice or misconduct that caused Floyd's death. And not only have there always been many alternative hypotheses for Floyd's death other than Chauvin's purported murder need, now we have yet another reasonable alternative, the credibility of which has been recognized by a federal court. Now, as I often note, appeals are for losers, both because you're only appealing because you lost a trial, and also because the prospects of meaningful relief on appeal are generally well under 1%.
Severely damaged.
That said, if anybody is entitled to meaningful relief on appeal after having been racially railroaded into an unjust conviction, it's certainly Derek Chauvin, and I wish him the best of luck. Okay, folks, before I wrap up, I do want to share with you how you can get a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, your handbook for being hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. We translate all the legalese into plain English so you can make better informed, more confident, more legally sound, and more decisive decisions in defense of what you value most. And perhaps best of all, most people tell us they can read the entire book in less than an afternoon. Check the book out on Amazon, where it's 5-star rated, but don't buy it there. They'll charge you $25 for the book, plus shipping and handling. Order the book from us, and we only ask that you cover the cost of shipping the book to you. The book itself is free. Grab your free copy of The Law of Self-Defense Principles right now at lawofselfdefense.com/free book. I'll close out by reminding all of you that if you carry a gun so you're hard to kill, that's why I carry a gun, so I'm hard to kill, so my family is hard to kill, then you also owe it to yourself and your family to know the law, so you're hard to convict as well. Until next time, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca at lawofselfdefense.com. Stay safe.
I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry. I didn't generate this. I was the first person to say it. American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, as the left did, so we rejected it mentally and said it must not be true. But I legitimately thought it might have been staged, and I stand by that, and I don't apologize for it.
And don't apologize, Mr. Jones. Please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again.
We know.
I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
From grilling a family murderer to breaking apart the story of a man who crashed into an acclaimed actress on a ski slope, we recap 6 of some of the most intense cross-examinations in recent trials. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Devlin.
And your allies.
So people, they seem to watch trials for all different sorts of reasons, right? They want to see if justice is going to be served. They want to see both sides battle it out. They're interested in the law, how it works. They're interested in finding out what is the real story here. There's a drama behind it. But I have to believe sometimes an interest in a trial also comes down to tough cross-examination. Those times when attorneys really grill witnesses or when witnesses fire back at the person questioning them. So let's recap 6 of some of the most intense cross-examinations that we have covered in relatively recent trials. You want to talk intense cross-examinations? Well, how about we start off with one that's not just intense, but incredibly awkward. It is the very disturbing case of Trevor Summers. This was out of Florida, and Summers was accused of sneaking into the home of his estranged wife, Elisa, namely manipulating his children to let him into the house. See, Trevor and Lisa, they were separated. They were in the process of getting a divorce. In fact, Lisa took out an injunction against Summers to keep him away. And Summers was charged in connection with tying Elisa up, sexually assaulting her, and then kidnapping her. Actually held her captive for days and even drove around with her in the car before he was ultimately arrested. Now, keep all of that in mind. Keep all the allegations in mind, because who do you think would be the worst person to cross-examine Elisa when she testified in Trevor Summers' criminal trial back in April of 2023? Who's the worst person? Well, how about Trevor Summers himself? Yeah, that's what happened. Summers decided to represent himself at trial, which is his constitutional right to do. And when he did that, he, of course, had the opportunity to cross-examine the government's key witness, his wife, Elisa. Now listen to these series of exchanges.
I'm asking you specifically, before we had sex, did I threaten you or force you to have sex?
My answer is yes. You forced me to have sex with you.
Did I hold you down?
No.
Did I push you?
Not at that time of having sex, but prior to having sex, you did push me. You did hold me down. You did tie me up. You did attack me, and you did break into my home when I was sleeping. You raped me.
So you're calling it rape?
It is. That is the definition of rape, to come into someone's home and attack them and tie them up and then have sex with them. That is the definition of rape.
Did you know I was coming to your house?
No! He placed the pillow over my face with such force until I lost consciousness and had thoughts that I was going to meet Jesus, and this was my last breath. That is why I have reasons to believe that you were there to kill me, because I came that close to death. At one point, you said that if the police find us, if we get pulled over, you need to tell them this is all a big misunderstanding and that you agreed to go with me and that there's no foul play.
Did you tell me you wanted to go with me?
I begged for my life and I said I will do anything. And you said you're going with me.
So you didn't want to go with me?
No.
I frankly have never seen anything like that before. An accused rapist and kidnapper, ex-husband, questioning in open court the victim, his ex-wife. And I know that was just a sampling, but it really wasn't good for Trevor Summers, because that is not just some random eyewitness. This is the surviving victim of this encounter testifying directly against the defendant about what she says happened to her at his hands. And the jury, they believed her, because they convicted Trevor Summers on all 11 counts, including attempted murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. How can we talk intense cross-examinations without talking about Alex Jones? Little background for you. So the InfoWars founder and host was in a very tricky situation. He was sued by the families of those who lost loved ones in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, as well as a former FBI agent, for comments that he made on his InfoWars programs regarding the massacre, namely saying that the shooting was staged, that it was fake, that it was a hoax, that the parents were crisis actors. And they sued him under various legal theories: defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And Alex Jones actually automatically lost these lawsuits because he failed to abide by court-ordered discovery obligations. Default judgments were entered against him.
Most people have no clue that in 2024, the best way to make money with Amazon is not with physical products.
So the trials that we covered of his on Law and Crime, it was purely about how much he would owe the plaintiffs in damages. So he's going into these two trials out in Texas and Connecticut as a loser. It just becomes, how much does he have to pay up? That's all. Now, his defense was he realized he made a mistake. It wasn't intentional. He tried to correct the record. He profusely apologized. He tried to show that the plaintiffs were overstating their damages, that he and his company, which was also sued, doesn't have a lot of money left. And Jones decided to explain a lot of this when he took the stand. However, there became a point, specifically in his Connecticut trial, when Jones seemed to have had enough of the plaintiff's attorney, Christopher Maddy. Now, I should be accurate. This wasn't really cross-examination per se. The plaintiffs actually called Jones as a witness, but it sure felt like a cross-examination. Maybe it was he was tired of being called a liar. Maybe he was tired of defending himself. Maybe he wasn't too happy the judge didn't let him bring up several topics during his time on the stand. Maybe it was because in a trial about a month earlier out in Texas, he was ordered to pay $50 million in damages to the parents of a slain child. Whatever it may be, it all came to a head when Jones had this fiery back and forth with Maddy.
That's Robbie Parker, isn't it? That's the real Robbie Parker, isn't it?
I mean, I said years ago I thought San Diego had him.
Robbie Parker's sitting right here. He's real, isn't he?
Yes.
And for years, you put a target on his back, didn't you?
Objection to the form of that, Judge.
Well, I mean,
Didn't you?
I've said his name. It's true. I haven't said other people's names, but they are.
You put a target on his back just like you did every single parent and loved one sitting here, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
That's argumentative. It's speculative. There is no foundation for it, and it's inappropriate to this time.
These are real people. You know that, Mr. Jones?
I think you just hope to move on.
Just like all the Iraqis, but you liberals kill and love. You're unbelievable. You switch on emotions on and off when you want. It's just ambulance chasing.
Why don't you show a little respect?
Objection, Judge. I think that you get what you give. Objection.
You have families in this courtroom that lost children, sisters, wives, moms.
The ship is on fire.
This is a struggle session. Are we in China? I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry. I didn't generate this. I wasn't the first person to say it. American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, as the left did. So we rejected it mentally and said it must not be true. But I legitimately thought it might have been staged, and I stand by that, and I don't apologize for it.
And don't apologize. Jones, please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again. I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
Objection, Judge.
Aren't you?
Objection. Objection. Argumentative.
Don't apologize to you.
Yeah, not great. Some wild statements. And does it really look like he's apologetic? In the end, after hearing all of the evidence, the jury came back with a massive damages award against Alex Jones. The jury there awarded the plaintiffs almost $1 billion, and the judge ordered an additional $473 million in additional punitive damages. You know, when I think of heated cross-examinations, I am reminded of a very big trial that we covered here on Sidebar, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Now, the Pirates of the Caribbean star sued his ex-wife for defamation over a Washington Post op-ed piece that she authored in which she claimed she was the victim of domestic abuse, implying at the hands of Johnny Depp. Now, Heard ended up countersuing Depp for comments his attorney made, presumably on his behalf, calling Heard's claims a hoax. This was a very, very ugly case between the two. A lot of dirty laundry was spilled. But at one point, Heard took the stand, and she got highly emotional, recounting the disturbing accounts where she was sexually, verbally, physically abused by Depp. Depp would get on the stand. He would say, no, he was the victim, that Heard attacked him, that he never harmed Heard. Well, when Heard was testifying, Depp's lawyer, Camille Vasquez, had the opportunity to cross-examine Heard. And it was something to watch. It really was. It lasted a long time. And honestly, it was kind of hard for me to select portions that exemplify how intense it got. But let's do a sampling of some of these moments. So I'm going to start with when Vasquez grilled Heard on her claims of abuse.
That either he has the bottle before or after he's holding you by the neck on the counter. Is that your testimony?
He held me by the neck on the counter.
Where's the bottle? That he assaulted
At what point?
While holding you down by your neck.
When he was assaulting me with the bottle, it was in his hand.
Was it in his hand before or after he holds you down by your neck?
I was being held down while he assaulted me with the bottle.
when he puts you on the counter, does he have the bottle in his hand, yes or no?
As I have always said, I don't remember exactly what happened first, or I don't remember the sequence. I just remember being aware that I was being assaulted by a bottle while I was on the countertop.
So he penetrates you with this bottle. But you don't know how he got the bottle, right?
That is correct.
And he did that right after he lost the tip of his right middle finger.
Again, I don't remember the exact sequence of those events.
We'll get to the sequence. And while he was on 8 to 10 MDMA pills, right?
Yes.
You testified that this is a picture you took after that incident, right, Ms. Heard?
Yes, that was one where he grabbed me.
And hit you in the face so many times that you don't remember. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And there's no injuries to your face in this picture, are there?
Not that this picture shows.
And there's no medical records reflecting that you sought treatment after this alleged incident either.
I did not seek medical treatment at this time.
So there's no medical records reflecting any injuries to your face after he hit you several times.
I did not need to go to the doctor at the time.
Despite hitting you several times that you lost count with rings on his fingers.
That's correct. I did not seek medical attention.
Your nose doesn't appear to be injured in any of these pictures, does it, Miss Heard?
I'm wearing makeup.
Your nose doesn't appear to be injured in any of these pictures, does it, Miss Heard?
That's why I'm wearing makeup.
Right. And makeup covers up swelling, right?
Makeup will not cover up swelling. Ice will, though.
Ice will cover up swelling?
Ice reduces swelling. Normally the swelling after that kind of injury is not as bad as you might imagine, and for me, it wasn't that bad. I have a picture of it underneath the makeup. That's how I know how to reference it.
A picture you haven't produced or shown
did.
to this jury, right, Miss Heard?
I produced everything.
But you haven't shown it to this jury.
I would very much like to. It's not my job.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself. It's the difference between being creative and being a creative.
Man, she really was, man. She, yeah, man, I don't know what's that about a wife, bro. She does unspeakable shit. Ryan Roth. He's the guy.
We continued to reach out in an amicable manner. We continued to offer meetings, and no evidence was shared with us. Because of that, and because of the assistance that they were shutting down our investigation and asserting jurisdiction, the state of Florida, under the direction of Governor DeSantis and myself, filed suit in October against Attorney General Merrick Garland so that we could, what we believe was within our right, to pursue state law charges for state law violations in the state of Florida. Thereafter, we continued to attempt to make contact with the federal government, with the prosecutors. We informed them that as a result of the actions of the defendant and his attempt to flee on the date in question, September 15th, of this year, as the stop was made and traffic was slowed, an accident happened and a little girl was seriously injured and almost died. As a result of that, we felt compelled to seek justice on her behalf and her family that will never be the same as they cope with her injuries. And so we continued to reach out with the federal government, explain to them the need to pursue these charges, explain to them that we were doing this to provide justice to this 6-year-old little girl. And again, they responded, we should not bring charges, we should not investigate further, and they would not provide us with information. The excuse and the reasoning kept coming back to the need to protect the case and national security. I have never been asked to meet with anyone to discuss how national security is implicated in shutting down the state of Florida's investigation.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Our statewide prosecutor has never been invited to discuss how national security would merit shutting down our statewide investigation. To my knowledge, none of our agents have been asked to discuss what the implications may be to national security as a reason to shutting down our investigation. In fact, even after promises that someone from the National Security Division would meet with our statewide prosecutor or contact our statewide prosecutor, that never happened. And so we explained we would move forward with charges of attempted felony murder to pursue justice on behalf of this little girl. To date, they have never contacted us or supported us in this endeavor in any way. We have sought information by subpoenas and witness interviews to support this information, to support our affidavit and complaint. And we have also used publicly available information and filing that has come through the federal investigation. And so this morning, we obtained an arrest warrant supported by a criminal report affidavit and complaint. We will make that available to the press. As you know, when the executive order came out, I stood with Governor DeSantis and assured not just Floridians, but the American people that we would endeavor to be transparent in this process. Rightly so, there were many questions surrounding the agency, prosecuting the president-elect, and at the same time investigating his attempted murder. We offered to be a partner, not only to vindicate those crimes that occurred here in our state under our own state laws, but to also provide an assurance and accountability that a trusted independent partner was part of the process. Governor DeSantis and I were both federal prosecutors. We have both worked with federal agencies. We both believe in the mission of law enforcement, both federal and state, to hold criminals accountable and pursue justice. We believe that these agencies are essential to protecting a free people under a rule of law. But that indeed is their mission. And we both believe that agencies need to be held accountable to that mission and held accountable to we the people who are the true bosses of these agencies. And so part of making available the affidavit and the arrest warrant to the press in full is we want to live up to that promise to be transparent and accountable, as we both assured when we stood here and talked about our intent to investigate. The affidavit is 18 pages long. We will provide that to you immediately following this press conference. I will go into a little bit about the charge that underlies this attempted felony murder. Following the assassination attempt, the defendant chose to flee north on I-95. At this point, he was expected to have been the shooter based on witness testimony, and that was informed to those officers that were stopping him. Once they located him, protecting the public, not knowing what was in that vehicle in terms of explosive devices, they had to stop traffic in both directions in order to effectuate the stop, make the arrest, and assure the safety of the public. It was during that stop that a tragic accident occurred that seriously injured a 6-year-old girl who was traveling with her family. When you couple those terrible injuries together with his other criminal conduct, which we believe rises to the level of domestic terrorism, it turns his actions into an attempted felony murder case.
$0 Grubhub delivery fees with Prime. Eligible orders only. Terms and additional fees apply.
I'd be owning him before the fact, wasn't it? Or what it? I don't know. Or guilty after the fact. They did. Because he run so anything he during whatever. Naturally, he's going to be held criminally responsible. I would think. In all honesty, I would think that he is. That reason.
Enemy battleship foundered.
That he will be held criminally responsible. Well.
Enemy severely damaged.
But
We're hull below the waterline. We're flooding quickly. Problem solved, sir.
Team has taken the lead. Battleship destroyed. foundered.
All stations, defend the base.
We won, it don't matter. Yeah. Hope we just got the new one. Damn, Rose. Damn. Shit. Reloading. I hope we get that one before we butt, I guess. We'll get these this time. Let's check this out.
DC has requested the National Guard. Well, DC has requested the National Guard, and it's been denied by DOD. I'd like to know a good god reason why it's been denied. The whole Capitol is rampage. There's a picture of someone sitting in this chair of the Senate. We've all been evacuated. There have been shots fired. We need a full National Guard component now. We need help right away. Thank you, Secretary. Bye-bye. They have not denied it. I spoke to the Secretary of the Army. He's given the full okay to give the National Guard. He said it was not denied. I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD.
That was just before 3:30 p.m. on January 6th. The D.C. National Guard was not actually approved to move into the area until after 5 p.m. Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan would have been on the original J6 Select Committee, but Pelosi couldn't have allowed that for obvious reasons. We now know why. And it's good to see you, sir. Your thoughts on the report that came out yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Cassidy Hutchinson had said things that just were not accurate. I mean, she talked about this note that, was there, but we know Eric Hirschman wrote that note, one of President Trump's lawyers that she was referring to. We know that there was contrary testimony to, when supposedly President Trump went over the back seat and grabbed the steering wheel when the Secret Service were driving. We know that's not accurate. And it doesn't surprise me. We had actually worked on looking at Cassidy Hutchinson's, testimony. None of this surprised me, Rob, because I caught them lying
Right.
about me several times. They altered an email, changed the punctuation, said that I had sent it when I had forwarded it from a lawyer who was the former inspector general at the Department of Defense. So it's like nothing surprises me with this group. I appreciate Congressman Loudermilk's work.
Yeah. The report states the failure to communicate the order in a timely manner has never been addressed by either DOD or oversight bodies, including the Select Committee. So that failure there, they've just overlooked all of that, which again speaks to the fact that that the whole point of this was not to figure out what happened on January 6th. The whole point of it was just to severely damage Trump, to prevent him from ever being able to take hold of power again in this country.
Yeah, totally. It was designed to go after the president. Any evidence that was, you go positive for the president, well, we can't have that. So they just look like they ignored it, or got people to change their story and say things that, again, I think, but when you have contrary testimony, demonstrate that what they put forward was just not accurate. But what I think is amazing is this was just one of a multi-step plan to get the president all the way back to when the Russia collusion thing, to the Mueller investigation, to this, to the 14th Amendment, to the 4 cases, Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Jack Smith. None of it worked because the truth was always on the president's side.
Yeah. And, I don't think you have to be, for a lot of people out there, it's not that it's a sycophantic Trump thing, that he did nothing wrong. There were mistakes were made. After that election was a terrible time for him. We understand that. But the people that have called this an attempted insurrection, which is what they've escalated it to, have now seen their credibility so completely gutted by anybody who objectively looks at the facts of that day. The idea that Trump sent a mob to the Capitol to unleash them to try and hold on to power is just beyond ridiculous. And again, we can never trust any of these people. Anybody who's spewed the word insurrection about that day and still spews it this day can never be trusted on anything again. They're obviously so partisan that they can't even tell the truth when there's this much information all these years later. And Trump posted this overnight talking about one of them, who is Liz Cheney, saying she could be in a lot of trouble based on the evidence that's been obtained here. Broke numerous federal laws, according to the report. Violations should be investigated by the FBI. Witness tampering is no joke. Yeah. And the point I really want to make is that this is a committee that already, Trump was already set up to fail by this. Like, there was no way to defend himself. They already just stacked the deck against him. And yet still, she's doing a back channel communication with a witness.
Yeah, again, it was a rigged job to go after the president, no doubt about it. And how about this? It took them 4 years to tell us what we all suspected, that they had confidential human sources, which is a fancy name for spies, at the Capitol that day. 26 of them. Some of them were tasked to be there. The FBI said, we need you to go there. Others came. 4 of them went in the Capitol, broke the law. 0 were arrested. So, it took you 4 years to tell us that. You had to wait till after the election to get us that information. This whole thing, talk about government being turned on the very people it's supposed to serve, weaponized against we the people, example after example. And of course, the biggest example is what they did to President Trump.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us.
Honestly, that was one of those deals they were going to have to tell the truth about. If not, they wouldn't. I don't get it. What's he calling them about?
These radios are not like your old walkie-talkies.
Let's see how it works. Hey, Garrett, this is Steve with Rapid Radio. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
All right, meanwhile, Republican lawmakers in Washington are now calling for the FBI to investigate former Congresswoman Liz Cheney for potential criminal activity while she was working on the January 6th House Select Committee. The panel releasing a report saying, in part, quote, numerous federal laws were likely broken by Liz Cheney, and these violations should be investigated by the FBI. Okay, that comes from Barry Loudermilk, a Republican from Georgia. Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley joins us right now. Jonathan, you've looked at all this stuff. You know, one of the things they say she broke a bunch of laws. One of the things is they say that she spoke via text, or she was warned, Liz Cheney was warned, don't talk to any of the witnesses. Is it okay for members of Congress to talk to witnesses?
It is okay for them. It's not against the law, but it is good advice. That is, she should not have been speaking to the witness. I think that some aspects of this account are very troubling. I've been one of Cheney's loudest critics and a critic of the J6 committee. I believe that she did act improperly, unethically. I thought the committee itself engaged in dishonest and unethical conduct. The question is whether all of that amounts to a crime, and I'm highly skeptical. They're suggesting that this constitutes witness tampering. That's a crime with elements. And I don't think that they could really stick this landing in showing this corrupt purpose to influence the testimony. She will be able to argue that she was pursuing a legislative agenda, that she was the vice chair of this committee, and she's getting the support of the witness who says that, you know, she had already decided to get rid of her lawyer, to replace the lawyer, and to change her testimony. Now, keep in mind that testimony changed in a way that many people believe was false. That is, she ultimately gave testimony that has been debunked, you know, including the argument that President Trump tried to take control of the presidential vehicle and drive to the Capitol. The members of that committee knew that that had been debunked by the very agent who was in a position to know, and they didn't tell the American people.
Sure. Liz Cheney responded yesterday to the House report. She said, among other things, Chairman Loudermilk's interim report intentionally disregards the truth and the Select Committee's tremendous weight of evidence and instead fabricates lies and defamatory allegations in an attempt to cover up what Donald Trump did. I know that you say that you are opposed, however, to her getting a pardon, right?
I'm very much opposed. I think that she is likely to get one. But these types of preemptive pardons are very damaging to our system. There are people who are suggesting that Joe Biden give up to thousands of pardons of preemptive, what I call white knight pardons. And part of this is really designed for a political rather than a legal purpose. I don't think Cheney is in serious threat of a prosecution, but we have a legal system to protect her rights and to protect the interests of the American people. So if she's investigated, they find something we don't know, then perhaps there's a basis for prosecution. But at the moment, I'm very skeptical. But when it comes to these preemptive pardons, it would change the pardon power in a dangerous way. We've gone through very divisive periods. I mean, Thomas Jefferson called the Adams administration the reign of the witches, but none of them engaged in this type of preemptive pardons. And it would be a huge mistake for President Biden.
Well, we've heard he's going to do some more. Could come today. We're almost to Christmas time. Right. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us today from D.C.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
So what you think?
Hello, Keisha. My name is Kenny. I'm returning your call.
When I first met Mr. Kenny and the Freedom Fighting Missionaries, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. They said we got to leave the hotel because of how large our family is.